make a video, I never put the ultimate of anything. You know, if I were doing the dust collection on my miter saw, there's no ultimate dust collection. There may be bad, better, and best, but you can never get it all. There's nothing ultimate that I know of. But this is going to be my last cleat wall. I finally found the wall that is, for me, the ultimate. And by the ultimate I mean I will never find anything better than this. So this is the last one I'll have. Now, I've had 2 cleat walls. The first one I did, I had narrow cleats. It worked okay, but it wasn't the best. And I did it about 15, 20 years ago. This is my French cleat wall. Everything on here is movable. For example, this hammer has a holder, and if you've never seen a French cleat, it's really a backing that has a 45-degree angle, and these strips of plywood that are on here also have 45s in them, and snap it in like that, and you can put your tools on. After that, I rebuilt it, made my cleats wider, and it was better, but still, it was frustrating. Once you hung everything up, it was pretty good, but when you lifted things off, the cleats would come off sometime. Some things that weren't supported at the bottom would sag or tip in a little bit. So it was good. It was very good. Now, the old cleat walls that I had the usual 45-degree hook on them. And like I said, I made one that was larger. I was going to put a new cleat wall on here, and I had some other radical design. I was actually going to make one that had 2 45-degree cleats, one on the bottom, one on the top, so that I could take and put a spacer underneath and lock it in so it wouldn't move. And that's still a good idea, but not as good as this. I came across this one online on a YouTube channel by April Wilkerson, and she made this cleat wall. And I watched it and I said, that's it. That's the one I want. And what I'm going to do is show you how I made this. I alluded to it in a previous video where I did my shop refurbishing, but I want to show you how I did it so you can do it and get it right so that you don't make the mistakes or like ruin an entire effort that you're doing and you have to start again. There are a few little nuances you got to watch out for. Now, I've taken a couple of the tool holders off from here so you can best see this one example. And I'm going to use the Sawtill. And this is my circular saw, and I've made a lot of videos in the rebuilding of the shop showing how I made a lot of these tool holders. And I'll leave a link to this at the end of the video so you can take a look. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the saw from here. And I'm going to remove the saw holder. This was the first tool holder I made for this wall. And it's not completely finished yet in a way. Let me pull this off. And you can see that there's a metal bar in here that slides off because I have not glued it in yet. I've glued in a few of the others, but I didn't glue them all in. They don't need to be glued in, but it would be more convenient if I did have them glued in. This bar slides into this slot like this. And this is a 1/8 inch by 1 inch piece of flat bar. And eventually I'll take a little bit of epoxy and I'll glue this in. And notice the rest of the tool holder is very flat. And then when you go to put it up in here, it fits into a slot like this, and it fits perfectly flat against the wall. There's no rocking. There's no tipping because it's not supported underneath. It fits perfectly flat. And doing this right so that flatness happen is what makes this really strong and really stable. Now, you may have noticed I have two slots in here. The first one is a mistake. This is my first tool holder. I had made one too deep. But now that this is on here, and I don't want to do it, but I almost think I could hang from it. And of course, now the tool fits into the holder. It fits very flat. It's very strong. I'm not going to worry about it falling off. I'm not going to worry about it twisting the tool holder or tipping it or anything. It's just solid. It's just so much better than the old 3D cleats that I had made. Let's look at some footage to show you how this was made. This needed to go through the table saw multiple times. I didn't think I'd be able to handle a full sheet and do a good job with it. So I decided to split it in half into 2-foot sections to make it more manageable. It was best to sand it down and put poly on it before I cut all the slots in it. It's really important that all of these slots have a uniform depth. So I went to some effort to make sure that when the plywood went through the table saw, it was perfectly flat on the outfeed side and also was perfectly flat going in from the infeed side. So I put some furring strips on my bench to take up some of the slack. And then I set up my sawhorses with some 2x4s and leveled them to get it flat going in. The blade is tipped at 45 degrees and has to cut a slot exactly 1/2 inch deep. I use the saw guide to cut the slots 1 1/2 inches apart, but you could make them 1 inch or you could make them 2 inch. It really doesn't matter, whatever your preference is. 2 wood blocks leveled and mounted on the wall made for a much easier mounting. These screws actually go through where the frame will be around it, so there'll be no screw holes afterwards. Well, there it is. Cutting all those slots took a minute, that's for sure. And 3.5 inch screws in the 2x4s behind it. One 2x4 cut into strips is the easiest and least expensive way to make a frame for this. Normally, I like to cut a rabbet and put a lip over the board, but I decided to do it flush so if any tool holders hung over the edge, they wouldn't hit a barrier. To make a cleaner look, I decided to cut some plugs to fill the screw holes on the cleat board. And of course, I proceeded to make the first tool holder, the circular saw till. Most standard kerf table saw blades make a cut that is 1/8 or slightly larger than 1/8 wide. So this 1/8 flat bar is the perfect choice. I'm grinding off the burrs here and rounding over the corners so that they'll slide into the slots on the wall a little easier, possibly. If you're thinking of making a cleat wall and you want to make the whole thing minus the tool holders, of course, out of just one sheet of plywood, for me, this is the way to do it. This is, in my mind, the ultimate cleat wall.